Welcome to episode 3 of Learning Fusion. In today's episode, we're going to be going over Fusion preferences and the settings. So let's roll this intro and let's get started.
We're learning Fusion together. We'll learn 2D stuff and 3D stuff and particle stuff and compositing stuff, deep pixel stuff and tracking stuff, but not other stuff, but some other cool stuff, cause we're learning Fusion together.
Now I hope you all really get my humor, especially with that intro. And if you don't, eventually you'll learn my humor. And part of that humor was intentionally making it a little kitschy or a little cheesy. And if you don't know, I do run a recording studio too. So downloading that stock footage, recording that track, and tracking and editing some of that stuff in that footage literally took me about an hour, kind of lending itself to the cheesiness of it. So anyway, before we get started, I want to make one correction from our episode 1. One of our awesome channel followers reminded me that the free version of the Fusion standalone is no longer available. And I did not realize that. So I've had a license for years and years now and didn't notice they don't offer the free version anymore. But you can get the studio version. And if you have a key for DaVinci Resolve Studio, the key works for that as well. So sorry about that. Let's move on. So we're going to go over some of these settings. So to be able to do that, let's go ahead and just create a little Fusion. You learned about this the other day. So we're just going to create a new Fusion composition. We're going to throw it in our little timeline here so we can hit this Fusion tab and jump into Fusion. Now today I'm only going to concentrate on this Fusion tab up top because there's so much stuff to go over when it comes to settings and right clicking in the menus and the display. It's a lot of information. So today we're just going to concentrate on this Fusion tab up here and the settings and the different stuff this does. So up top, we have this show toolbar, which is checked. And this is this toolbar right here. So if I uncheck it, it hides it. If I check it, I've got my toolbar down here, and we'll go over this toolbar and how to customize it in a later episode. But that's what that does. I'm going to skip our Fusion settings. Our reset composition will reset. So if we had something in here and we got our awesome Fusion composition going on. If we hit the reset, it's just going to reset the entire Fusion composition, but leave our media out node. Down here, we have our macro editor, and we are not going to go over macros today, but if you're creating a macro, this is where you would start that off. And down here, we have import, so we can import different scenes, whether it's an Alembic scene, FBX scene, a PSD, shapes, an SVG, or we can import individual tracks. Now, mind you, when we import this stuff and you have the studio version, it's going to import the layers appropriately. And when we go over how to bring in your media, I'll cover this import. And then down here, we have render all savers. So if we had our little Fusion composition here and shift space saver node, we had a saver node on there and we wanted to export this out. This is how you would render that saver. And initially it's going to show up dark because we didn't have that saver, but now that we have one, it's lit so we can render it. Now, sometimes even if you have a saver, it's going to show up dark. And the fix behind that is just to uncheck this show toolbar and then recheck it again. And then that'll pop back up so you can render your saver node. So let's jump into this Fusion settings panel. Now on here, a lot of these settings aren't going to take effect right away, meaning it's going to get frustrating making changes and you're not going to see the changes occur unless you go back here and hit your reset composition, and then your changes will take place. For instance, our first setting up here, our 3D view. So let's go ahead and get some 3D items here. So I'm just going to grab a camera, a merge, and a render node. So now we've got our little 3D scene here. And let's go ahead and bring up our Fusion menu. So in our 3D view, we can change our axis. We can change the line width and the color, which is this yellow right here. This is our little axis point. But if I change this, say I want it to be 4 pixels, and I want to change my color to be a nice purple, and I hit OK, save, you notice nothing happened. It's still the same. But if I go up here and set reset composition, And now I go ahead and get my little 3D stuff. Now we've got our little purple line here, and it's correct. And there's a lot of settings within this panel that's going to happen that way. So you're going to have to reset your composition for it to work correctly. I know it's frustrating, but that's how it operates. Additionally, there's a lot of settings in here that are overridden by our regular, just like little right-click settings. So setting them up in this Fusion setting panel doesn't make a difference. Additionally, a lot of these settings are only for the Fusion standalone. So they only operate correctly within the Fusion standalone. So we're going to go over all this stuff. But we can change our major lines, which are our big lines right here. We can change our minor lines. We can change what our spacing is, our line width, and our line color for all that. And we can change our overall sizing units right here and our scale. We can also select this grid anti-aliasing. So if it's doing a bunch of weird stuff, you can select that. But if it's a little hard on your graphics card or your computer, unchecking this will make your computer a little faster. Same with our different views here. We can change our near and far plane, which is going to change our little near and far plane back here. We can change our angle of view, our eye separation, and our convergence. And down here, if we're using stereo modes, we can change whether it's toe in, off axis, parallel. And same with our stereo rig, we can have it set to our left, our center, or our right. And this is just for stereo if we're using those two cameras to get that 3D stereo look. For our orthographic views, we can change our near and far plane, as well as fitting our selection to a percentage and fitting all to a specific percentage. And we can also change our default lights. So when we bring new lights in, what the default setting is. So we can change that for the ambient intensity, our directional intensity, and we can also change the light position of our directional light. So if we want it by default to be to the right, we can save that and it's going to be to the right. Under our default tabs, this is for changing our default numbering over here. So let's go ahead and delete all this. I'm going to hit shift space and I'm going to add, I don't know, a scan lines node. There we go. We got a scan lines node. So right here, all of our number width and point width, this is what these mean right here. So anything to do with numbering is considered a number width, and anything to do with a point, like in our transforms or points, is considered point width. So in here, we can change our default animation. And if it's set to do nothing, it's going to just by default use what's assigned by default to change our animation. So if I select this animate size, it's going to use that default numbering. But if I want to come in here and I need to assign MIDI stuff to it, I can select MIDI extractor. So now if I hit that animate, anything that goes in our little spline editor down here or keyframes editor down here is going to use MIDI extractor information for that animation. Same with our point. I can change this to path, publish, a shake, whatever I need to change this to. But leaving it set to nothing will keep the same defaults and you're not going to have issues. As far as your auto tools down here, this is just what's automatically going to populate when we create additional things. So anytime a background node is automatically created, right now it's set to do none or just a background. But if we need something else, we can select something else. And for a merge, the same thing. So right now I've got use merge only when connecting outputs directly. So if I was to bring in two pieces of footage, nothing's going to happen. But I don't like that and I want it to automatically do it. So I can go to Fusion settings, uncheck this. Now if I select save and obviously reset our composition. Now if I bring in those two pieces of footage, it's going to use a merge node. I can also select multi-merge if I want a multi-merge instead. So if I hit save, reset our composition, and now if I bring in those two pieces of footage, now we've got a multi-merge. So this is where you can change that. And I'm going to set this back to merge and leave that unchecked. And for a global range, this is just our default global range for our new Fusion compositions. And this is mainly for standalone. It's really not going to change anything in here. And if we need to show time code, we can show our time code as SMPTE or feet and frames. Now under flow mode, most of this stuff is only going to work from our little area down here, meaning our right click and telling it to force all pictures, telling it to show stuff, or little options, all this stuff is only going to work from this section. So any changes we make in here, so you notice we have all tile pictures here. So if I bring something in, technically it should be showing a tile picture, but it's not. Same with our options. All these options right here are going to depend on how we set up everything down here. Now for our pipe grab, our link grab, and our group opacity, this stuff does and doesn't work sometimes. So sometimes you'll save it and reset it and it works. Sometimes it doesn't. For instance, let's go ahead and create a group and let's see if we can change this opacity. Right now it's set to 100%. So technically if I go ahead and add a color node here, Control G, I double click, it should be 100%, meaning what we see behind it should be setting at 100%. So if I change that to 0%, I save it, you notice there's no changes. So let's reset our composition and let's create another group and node, create a group. And so it looks a little more transparent. It looked like that may have worked. So let's go ahead and change this back to 100%. Or let's change it to 90, hit save. And yeah, look, it changed. Nice. It worked this time. But that's what these settings are for. And these are really the only place you can change this stuff at. But for our force and our options here, this is all done with our right click. So if I move stuff over here and I right click over here and I say force all tile pictures. Now, if I push play and probably connect it, there we go. Now we can see our tile pictures. And we'll be going over all this right click stuff in a different episode. So I will show you all this fun stuff. But all those options right here, like I said, will work when we right click, and they don't work really in this settings menu. Under frame format, it's the same thing. This is mainly for Fusion Standalone, and it's really going to come up with our defaults from our timeline anytime we open this. So if you needed to change it, you can change it. And then our color bit depth right down here is definitely only for the standalone version, because DaVinci Resolve will always operate at 32-bit float, no matter what you change these to. Under our general, there are a few changes that actually work in here. So this auto clip browse. So if I was to hit shift space and add a loader node, you notice it automatically pops up with a browse window. If I uncheck this and I hit shift space, add a loader node, and it's still going to come up because I did not refresh and save Fusion, reset composition, shift space, loader node. Now if I add a loader node, that pop-up didn't happen, and I would have to select our files over here. So let's change that back to auto clip. Right here, this new comp on startup, this is specifically for the standalone. Same with a lot of these summarize load errors, show render settings, in your mouse window affecting stuff under the pointers. And same with showing our color as, whether it's our linear 8-bit or 16-bit. And then under our proxy, none of these proxies are really going to operate correctly, because within the Resolve version, we have to right click up here and change our proxy settings right here. So these Fusion settings for the proxies really don't matter. Under your path map, just shows all the path map for your different stuff. If you need to add one, you can add one. And if you don't know what this is, you probably shouldn't mess around with it or be changing settings, because you're going to ruin your software. But all your paths for everything are here. So if you happen to forget where your scripts are, user paths, scripts, reactor, system / scripts, this is where all my scripts are. Under script right here, This is where we can change our logins on script use. So right now it's set to no login required. So anytime we execute a script, we don't need a login. If we want to have a username and password, we can select this and set it here, or we can use our Windows login to validate our credentials here. If we have a separate script editor that we use, we can select which editor that is here. Under our Spline Editor, this is primarily for our spline up here. And this is another menu system where all this stuff is going to be overridden by our little spline menu system over here. So setting in here really doesn't matter. It's setting in our menu system, our spline, which we will eventually go over. Within our splines, some of this stuff does work, some does not. But again, this is another menu system we're going to have to keep resetting for this stuff to happen. So for example, our auto smooth for our polylines. So if I wanted our polylines to auto smooth, I hit save, and let's get some media here. If I had some polylines on it, you notice it's not auto smoothing. I have to come in here and select it and smooth it myself. But if I didn't want to have to do that all the time, which I personally like, you can go here, select that polyline so it's on. And remember, for it to take place, we're going to have to reset. And let's bring our media back in and add a polyline. So now if I draw a polyline, you notice it's auto smoothing. But I do not like that for my polylines. It is set up for our B-splines, B-spline polylines, and for our meshes though. Same with your B-spline modifier degree and your B-spline polyline degree. You can change it to cubic or quadric. For our tracker path points, by default, it's set to show on hover. So for example, if I get rid of this, let's add a tracker. So we've got our little tracker and we're going to say tracker earring. And let's track forward and backwards. And if you notice, our little tracker here isn't showing our points unless we hover over it. Now we can see those points. But if we want to see those all the time, we can go up to Fusion, Settings, and I can either hide it or show always. So if I always want to see it, I can hit save. You notice it didn't happen yet. So we have to go to Reset Composition for this to take effect. We can add our little media again, add a tracker, add a tracker earring. And now our points are automatically going to show up all the time, no matter what. But again, I do not like that. So I'm going to switch this back to show on hover. And same with our tracker path. So we can have it be a Bezier polyline, a B-spline polyline, or XY splines. And I know I've had a few people ask, hey, how can I just track on the X or track on the Y? Well, you can't. So by default, if we look at our little spline here and we just have this displacement here for our tracking data. But if I wanted to track on the XY, I could. So if I only wanted my Y, what I could do is go to my Fusion settings, and say I want XY splines, save. Of course, we're going to have to reset our composition. So reset. Let's add a little media in, add our tracker node, and let's track our earring again, and track forward and backwards. Now, if I go to our spline editor, you notice we have X and Y information for our tracking data. So if I only wanted my Y, I could select all my X and I can delete it. So now I only have my Y tracking data, meaning anything I want to connect to that. So if I wanted to merge, bring this in, let's merge it, let's create a little circle here. If I went to my little ellipse here, right click, connect to tracker path value, now it's only connected to the Y value of that tracker. So that's how you would separate X, Y information for your tracker. So let's go back up to our Fusion settings, change this back to Bezier polyline, hit save. Let's reset our composition. So I'm back to normal. So now same with our polyline edit mode on done, whether we insert and modify or modify only, whether we're allowing selection of points from multiple polylines. And under here, this is for our onion skinning options. So we can change the default skin count and the steps. And down here is for our Roto Assist. So if you remember our Roto Assist, right now it's distance set to 4. That's how I have my distance. So if I create a polyline, if I go up here and we go to this Roto Assist up top, you notice our distance 4 is set right here. I can change it if I want. Let's say if I wanted it set to 8, which is the default. Now my distance is set to 8 for any rotoscoping I do. But if I go to Fusion settings and I wanted my default distance to be, say, 12, I can save that. Now if I go to my little rotoscoping, it's set at 8 still. Fusion, reset. Now if I bring this in, I go to here, now it's set to 12. So let me reset to 4. Under our timeline right here, this is settings for our keyframes down here. And again, this is stuff that's available within our menu systems for our keyframe editor. So if I click on here, you notice we have all of our create and edit filters, which are all these filters right here. So changing these in this settings isn't going to do anything. You can, however, add new ones if you want to create new ones that will show up in your filters down here. Same with all our timeline options, all this stuff, no matter what we change it here, is going to be overridden by what we have set in our little timeline menu settings. Under our tweaks, again, this is primarily for our standalone, but down here under our GPU usage, we can force use float 16 textures if our 32-bit float textures are too much. And down here, we can auto detect, and we can also force 10-bit precision if we want. Under our user interface, we have this use localized naming, which I honestly do not know what that does. So no matter what I do, I can't tell what this thing does, because this used to say use gray background interface, which means you could change our little gray color here on our interfaces, but now it says use localized node naming, and I can't tell what that does. So no matter what I do with the nodes, change node naming, nothing seems to be different. So if you happen to know what that does, you can let me know. Now, for our controls here, these really do make a difference on what we're doing. So right now we're set at auto control open, which means if I click on this node, it's automatically going to open here in our inspector. And if I get a few more nodes here, let's add a color, let's add a blur. Let's input it. So whatever I select on, I'm checking, it's switching over here in our little inspector area. Now, if I go to our settings and I uncheck auto control hide, now you notice we've got our last one we just opened still up there. Now we've got those 3 up there. If I look at our media out, now we've got pretty much all of our nodes up. And they're all going to list in our inspector, and to be able to see it, I just have to click on which one I want to see. So all these down here have to do with how your nodes are viewed within your little inspector over here. Same with your auto control close. So if you don't want them to automatically close, you can change these settings to show what's open and what's closed. Under our auto control close modifiers right here, this is just for on our modifiers. If I go to one of our tabs and I say add a modifier, modify with shake, Now we have modifiers, and if we have multiple modifiers, this auto control close modifiers will operate the same. It's either going to keep them all open or auto close, depending on which one we click on. For auto control advanced, by default, if I select a number in here and I say push 10 and hit enter, it's automatically going to advance to the next bar. If I uncheck this and I say 5, oops, I should probably save that. If I uncheck this, I press 5 and hit enter, it's only going to stay in that block. So now it's only going to stay in that block when I hit enter. What if I go back and hit auto control? I can hit 10. It's going to advance to the next one. 10, advance to the next one. Under here for this combined color wheel, this is for our color corrector. So if I open our color corrector node, you notice we just have one little color wheel here, right here, and we select what we're changing. So right now it's set at masters. If I want to change our midtones, I can change our midtones. And let's reset that. But if I wanted to see all four at the same time, if I went to my fusion settings and uncheck combine color wheel and hit save, now I've got one for all of them. So this would be our master, our shadows, our midtone, and our highlights. Right here, we can select gamma aware controls if we want. And if we do, we need to make sure we're setting our gamma up correctly, whether it's 2.2, 2.4, or limits for our linear stuff. And again, right here, we can change our grab distance. Down here under our touch, scroll, and mouse wheel, these don't seem to work correctly. So right here, you can see in the past, I've tried to change my pan button to use the shift. So if I hold my shift key, pan, nothing's happening. But if I hit my control, I'm zooming correctly. So these don't quite work on my computer for some reason, other than the control when it comes to zooming. Under our view controls, all of these are overridden by our view controls up here. So change them in here doesn't matter. No matter what you do, it's not going to change any of your view controls. Those are all done up here. And VR headsets, if you have VR headsets, this is where you change all those settings. I do not and have never used it. Under your import EDL, this will have all your format options for importing your CMX formatted EDL files. So that is your Fusion settings menu. In our next episode, we're going to go over our display settings within Fusion. And I know some of this stuff is kind of boring, but to be able to properly get into using all these nodes and doing stuff, you really need to know how to navigate and do your settings and do all this boring stuff before you do the exciting stuff. So I will see you in the next episode.